Greetings, Grasshoppers. I just got a little distracted while the intro stuff was going on. Please forgive. Welcome to the Bot Signal today. Today, we're going to talk about lighten up your webinar a little bit with some gamification. Yes, my friends. Now, have you ever watched people or participated in Jackbox? This is a little party game type of thing that I know my friends really like a lot. And basically everyone picks up their phone and they're able to participate in a game. Now, a lot of the games are super silly, but for me, what an excellent way to spice up a webinar. Listen, here's the problem. A lot of people are zoomed out right now. Zoomed out being, looking at, just getting tired of looking at talking heads in Zoom. They get bored more easily on webinars that are just talking head syndromes because they're looking at that all day, people. They don't want to look at it for another hour. So, is there a way to break that up a little? Well, of course there is. Of course there is. Adding polls, quizzes, little games. It depends on the software, and this is something that you need extra software to do to plug into your webinar. I've got some suggestions depending on your price range and what you want to do, but it does take some extra software, so it does take some extra work when you're prepping your webinar. But here's the thing. I think conversation is key. I think making connections is the heart of your business. When you are lecturing an audience, how much connection do you think that you have? Answer in the comments for me. Answer is not much. It's just not much. There's not much going on. If you are talking to your audience and there's not much going on there, and you're explaining your genius, really. You're telling the world what you're about, who you are, why you do what you do. It's important stuff, but there's a higher chance that people will get bored with just looking at a talking head these days. Now, let me say this, and you knew because you're watching. Talking heads are better than slides. You know what I'm saying. Now, the best thing is if you mix that stuff up, you mix up your talking head and your slides. That's a good thing, my friends. If you can get into the rhythm of that, an easy way to do that, if you can, is setting it up on your keyboard so you have a couple of shortcuts so you can mix between presentation slides and your talking head, because at least then they're not staring at the same thing the whole time. You want to change up that screen. You want to get them to look at some different things. You want to switch your background in the middle if you can. Why not? You want to be able to do all of these things because you want to delight and surprise your audience. You do not want them to be able to predict everything you're going to say, what you're going to do next. Hey, if they can predict it, they're out. It's like me in a movie theater. If I can look at a preview and know what happens in the end, boop, I ain't going. No, I ain't going. And I love the movies. I love being immersed in something. I love being able to be immersed in sight, sound, and emotion. I love it so much. But if I can predict what you're going to do, I'm bored. And if I'm bored, I'd rather not, I'd rather be at home with my dog, basically. I can catch it when it comes out on Netflix. You know what I'm saying? So let's think about that in terms of webinars, okay? Now, some of you might not have a webinar. Totally fine. I get it. I have been in business quite a while, and I just got one. Sanjay, hello and welcome. I am so happy to see you here. Good morning. If it's morning where you're at. Oh, yeah, I think it is morning where you're at. Okay. Very good. So, how can we gamify those webinars? How can we make it so that audience participation is there's a call to do it, and how can we make it too where that audience participation shapes the webinar a little bit? Now, I've been on 1,000 webinars where people will, and this is a tried and true thing. People will at the beginning, just to warm the audience up, they'll say, "Hey, where are you from? Put it in the comments." It's a tried and true thing. Why do people do that? People do that so that they will prime you to participate in the rest of the webinar, so that every time they ask a question, and they make sure that their questions are spaced out during the webinar. Great stuff, right? Now, for me, I would upgrade that just a little bit, because where you are from has no bearing on the webinar. You are going to get the same webinar if you're in Argentina, if you're in Alabama, if you're in Barcelona. It is all going to be the same webinar. It absolutely does not matter where people live. That has no bearing on what I'm going to say. I might pick out a few interesting places as the chat rolls by, but it's not going to make any difference to the webinar at all. So I like to upgrade that a little bit. I like to make that notion of let's have that conversation. Let's do that, but let's make it so that it's relevant to what we're going to be talking about. So here's an option. If you want to just turn up that webinar participation a little bit, get people online a little bit. And I've seen people just use Zoom for this. You could just use Zoom for this, or whatever you use for your webinar. It does not matter. Point being that you ask a question and the chat rolls by, and as a presenter, you either have somebody helping you produce the show who reads that and then shoots you what you need to, shoot you what the consensus is, or you try to read it yourself. So what about switching that question up? Where are you from? Fun, no bearing on the conversation. What's the biggest thing that you hope to learn in this webinar? How about that? How about that? If you think about that, that's something performers use from stage, at least at some of the concerts or live shows that I have been to. People, I was at an Indigo Girls show once. They're my favorite, you guys. Don't judge me. Don't judge. The dojo is a no judgment zone. I was at an Indigo Girls concert, and they were like, what do y'all want to hear today? They're Southern. What do y'all want to hear today? And we all shouted out some songs. I had a sign with my song on it because I'm a professional. Anyway, what do you want to learn today? And I always say, when I'm phrasing it that way, I put a little sauce on it and I say, what's the biggest thing you want to learn today? If you direct people's minds to the biggest or most important thing, they're a lot more, you're making it dead easy for them to answer. If you give them an open-ended question that's too open-ended, you get people thinking a lot and not putting anything down. You need them to put something down. It's like if I were a car salesman and I were sitting in one of those groups where you introduce yourselves, and the guy, I could stand up and I could say, well, a perfect client for me is anybody who needs a car. Well, that's a lot of people. If I stood up and said, think of people that need yellow cars. I have got a yellow car on the lot this week. It is so beautiful. And here are the ways that it is beautiful. And if you know somebody who needs a yellow car, you give me a call. Switch the colors up every week. It doesn't matter. If you ask for something specific, you're much more likely to get an answer, particularly on a webinar. So That's something that you can use no matter what kind of software you're using, no matter what. Give me a chance to work with you. Well, it shall be done. Sanjay, meetrj.com. Let me throw that in there for you into the comments. I'll throw that on the LinkedIn comments to I can't actually throw that on the LinkedIn comments, so I'm just going to put it on all. If you want to work with me, hit that link up and make an appointment, and we'll have a chat and see what can happen there. So back to the trail. Back to what we were saying. Lighting up those webinars. Lighting up your webinars. So that is one way that you can do it. Direct questions, specific questions that have something to do with the rest of the webinar. Please don't give me what town are you from? A lot of people have used it, which means a lot of people have heard that already, and they're less likely to participate because it's not really interesting for me to put Omaha in a chat. I mean, because no one comes here unless you live here. Anyway, so that's one thing that you can do. That's a low tech deal. The tough thing with Zoom and with other webinar providers a lot of times is that when you do ask a question and you do get some participation in the chat, it is really, if you've got a big webinar, the larger the webinar, the more difficult it's going to be because to keep up. Because people will be shooting their towns in there or shooting, what they want to learn in there. And keeping up with that is a difficult thing to do. So it almost discourages people from writing in. That's a tough one. Because you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. But there are other things that you can do to gamify that webinar masterclass wherever you're holding. And it's some cool stuff. Now, these involve software. There are gamification softwares out there that are very good. One of them is called Kahoot. That is, I will type it in the comments. Because I know you'll want to know. It's called Kahoot, and Kahoot is something that is made for gamifications. It's made for schools, made for businesses, made for people who want to make learning fun, basically. And boy, they must be turning a business right now, what with all the schools going online for the foreseeable future. This is some great stuff. I believe in gamification as a way to learn, as a way to teach. I taught for several years up at the local university here. I have led endless amounts of workshops online, helping people really learn something. And not all the details of something in a webinar. I was talking about this with a dear friend of mine yesterday. In a webinar, you absolutely want to teach some core concepts without all the details because it is only an hour. It's only an hour that you have. And people's time is a privilege. It's not a right. I'm not holding people hostage for an hour. What I'm hoping to do is lighten their load. What I'm hoping to do is teach engagement as a way of thinking while you're marketing, not following all of the traditional rules, thinking about where you can put engagement in there. So people's time being a privilege, I absolutely want to be of value to them, but I don't want to give every single last detail because it's going to take me too long and they're going to feel fire hosed. So gamification for learning. I'm a huge fan. I've used it many, many, many times. And basically the essence of it is this. Basically the essence. That's a little redundant, RJ. Anyway, the essence is this. Polls, quizzes, leaderboards, games, questions, answers, open-ended, closed-ended, whatever you want to do there, be creative. have some fun, and get it on going. Make it your brand. Make it so that you're, for me, I create a digital avatar for all of my clients. I'm absolutely going to use that digital avatar in the chatbot, but I'm also going to use it in as many places as it feels wonderful to use it. Because avatars are fun. You see that thing, it lightens the mood. You see that thing, and all of a sudden, not everything is, I've got to sit through this lecture for an hour. It's, oh, look, spinning dragons here. So that's a heck of a lot different, isn't it? For me, gamification is excellent. That Kahoot, that one's a great one. Teresa, I think you'll like that a whole lot. There's also Slidio, or is it Slidio or Slidio? I don't know. I'm going to throw that in the comments as well, so you can take a look there. And then there is, there's just one more, and I forgot the name of it. Please hold. This is, and Aha Slides is also a contender for my affection. So those are just some things to take a look at. Those cost money. Those are also going to cost you your time, because you got to learn it. You've got to learn it and put it in your webinar. But for me, that is a great investment of time and money, because I will get people paying attention all throughout the webinar. The toughest thing, even when I'm on stage doing my speaking and stuff, the toughest thing is people start to fall asleep out there. People start to look at their phones. If you use these quizzes and polls and gamification, they're on their phones. You're using that as an asset rather than hoping that they don't get on their phones. They're using their phones to answer your questions. They can see their answers up on the, wherever you're given the presentation. If you're on stage, of course, it's a big screen. If you are somewhere like, online, which we all are right now, you show it in the back screen. That is, or show it on a slide, whatever you need to do. But they can see their own participation. They can see themselves affecting this webinar. And that is a subconscious little trigger that says, I'm important here. I'm valued here. I'm not just being talked at, I'm being talked to, and I'm contributing to the conversation. There we go with conversation again. You know what I'm saying to you. This is important. This is important stuff. I'm going to be, I'm going to be using this in the webinar that I am doing it next week. It is August 20th. It is going to be a darn good time. And I just absolutely can't wait. You guys, it's going to be so freaking cool. That webinar is, I'll throw a link in the, description here. But that one is going to be so fun, because I have so many surprises and Easter eggs and just wonderful things to do in that webinar. You just don't even know. And some of the stuff I'm going to be experimenting with for the first time. So that ought to be fun. But that webinar, masterclass, really, I don't like the word webinar, is Unleash Your Engagement. We're going to be talking about the 3 cornerstones that you have to know about engagement in order for it to be profitable in your business. So, third thing that I'm going to mention today, and this is, this is kind of an advanced technique, but it seems to really help people a lot pay attention and, kind of mix things up a little bit. I use a lot of overlays. You've noticed these. Let me get them back on my screen here for a second. Whenever we're celebrating things, whenever we're talking about the pink elephant in the room, there's a ton of little overlays. My red alert, I haven't used that in a long time. But if you're changing your screen dynamically while you're talking, now this takes text setup. It takes tools. Boop. I've got a little guy down here. I just press the buttons and the things appear. It takes text setup. It takes tech tools. It takes practice. you know, but it's pretty darn amazing when it works. And it should work most of the time. One of the things that I do is I pretty consistently test these things. I will run through all the buttons before the show just to make sure everything's still on. You know what I'm saying? I'm a paranoid human being. And sometimes it pays off. Anyway, changing the depth of the screen, making sure that you've got some fun things to put up at certain times, changing your background during the presentation if you are into that kind of stuff. Just got a new tool called that allows me, and some of you saw this already, but it allows me to appear and disappear at will, which I think is super fun. Also allows me to go down in the corner here. So that's some stuff I'm going to be working with too, because as you're doing demos and stuff on screen, it's so much easier to just, point to where it's happening. It's so much easier for your audience. It's good stuff. So those are some things that you can work with to light that webinar up. You know what? When people get on there, I know what it takes to get people on a webinar, to get them listening to you, to get them benefiting from the webinar. People have been to so many of them in their lives, and they are expressly a little bored. Shake it up. Shake it up. You can do this thing. You can do that with just crafting some good questions, putting them in your presentation, scatter them throughout. Don't just do it at the beginning. And, keeping an eye on your chat. You can absolutely do that. And that's the basics, right? You can also move into some of these other things. You can move into using polling software like we were talking about, and you can move into using overlays and stuff on your stuff so that you can get people to participate. You can get them to look. You can shake them out of looking at a talking head for 50 minutes or an hour. People aren't as into that anymore. They turn off earlier because, my friends, it's tough. We're zoomed out. We have just been doing this all day. We've been staring at our screens all day in many cases, and one more talking head is going to drive us crazy. So, how to light up your webinar? Don't be a talking head. Don't do that because people don't love it. They just don't love it. All right, my friends. Need to hire someone for tech. I need to use all this, but it's way past my pay grade. Oh, I understand. Hey, John, good to see you. We have been talking about how to spice up that webinar, how to make it something that people love to participate in, how to make a webinar of yours something people don't ever want to miss, and other people, friends of yours, like to tell other friends about so that you get more and more people in. Shout out. Oh, yes. Shouting it all out. All right. Very good. So, my friends, that's about it for me today. I am, of course, doing the Unleash Your Engagement webinar. It's unleashyourengagement.com. Let me grab the link for you. This is going to be next Thursday. And I am really excited. My team and I have been working on this for a month now, just working on the value that we're going to bring to you. This masterclass, of course it's free. Of course it's free. And I want to bring you some of the keys to engagement. We've all heard set up a funnel, set up a funnel, set up a funnel. Most of us don't get further than that. Most of us don't even get through the setting up a funnel part. We change our product or we change our focus or something changes. But setting up a funnel isn't enough. It isn't enough. Be conversational. Think about that human on the other end. Make the process exciting, make it engaging, make it fulfilling. You can do this. You can do this with a simple mindset shift. You can do this. Sign up for that webinar. I'm going to teach you some things. It is going to be massive engagement. It's designed for utmost engagement, and there's limited spots so that we can do that. So get in now, do that thing. That's going to be helpful for you. And with that, my friends, it's time for me to go. I'll see you here tomorrow. Fridays, we do a show called Friday Wins, and I invite you. It's my favorite show of the week. On Friday Wins, we talk about all of the wins and the losses that you've had lately. Well, we don't focus on the losses. I don't know why I said that. Rewind. We talk about all the wins that you have. Entrepreneurship's a lonely game. And if we don't stop and look at how cool our job is sometimes, how much we've won this week and how cool we are, if we don't ever look at that, we burn out. And it's my wish that no entrepreneur should ever have to do this alone or burn out. So, my friends, 10 o'clock Central tomorrow, same bot time, same bot channel. Bring your wins. Toss them in the comments for me, and we'll celebrate every single one. That's tomorrow's show. And with that, my friends, I'm going to see you in a bot.